Now, there's a current of mental health, and I want to mention this because, of course, this is September. For those of you guys that are not knowing when we're recording this, is September. This is the month for suicide prevention and mental health awareness. The current of everything we're talking about here, the pressure that the workers are feeling, can cause those workers to get into despair. And in construction, it's absolutely epidemic right now with suicide in construction. But the general psychological safety of workers have been challenged because of all these undue pressure. What's your take on psychological safety as a whole, and then obviously suicide in construction and some of these fields because of the pressure the workers are feeling? What's your take on the mental health of the industry?
Yeah, I think so. Psychological safety to begin with. I tend to avoid stringing those words together just because it's become such a buzzword now. Don't get me wrong. The true concept of psychological safety is wildly meaningful within our work worlds.
Oh, yeah.
The problem with it becoming a buzzword, just like when anything else becomes a buzzword, is we print a poster that says we are now psychologically safe. And then as soon as you tell me something I don't like, I'll fire you. But I have the poster.
That's right.
We like to say we're psychologically safe. And then we start to come up with wacky ways of trying to measure how psychologically safe we are, even though we're not. Right? Because I got the posters, so I'm going to count how many posters I put up about how much you can tell me stuff. I even wrote a rule that says you got to tell me stuff, because if you don't tell me stuff, how am I going to fire you for breaking the rules? And then if I find out that you didn't tell me stuff, I'll fire you for not telling me stuff. See, psychological safety. We try to do that stuff. We do this thing where we take really, really, really good things, meaningful things, and we put it through the corporate meat grinder that simplifies it down to, well, I wrote a rule that says you're now psychologically safe. Right, so we've got that. So a bit of a rant, I guess, right at the beginning of that, to just say that that's an environment that you create, that you have to lead up to. You have to prove that to people. It's not just something that you can say. It's not a poster that you can put on the wall. None of that stuff works that way. And if you stick with it as a buzzword, it becomes a poster.
Yeah.
You got to live up to those key ideas. Now, to me, there's this really interesting thing, because we've been talking about really dialogue within organizations. It's been a lot of our conversation. Gaining access to the vitally needed operational information that we need as leaders and safety professionals to make good decisions, good operational decisions, and that our organizations need to meaningfully learn and improve. Meaning that when we actually go to improve stuff, it doesn't make things like 100 times worse.
Yeah.
And the improvements actually tend to work from time to time.
Oh, yeah.
Those kind of things. But with this information piece, and we struggle with information within our organizations, the biggest thing that we tend to really struggle with, the thing that stands in our way of gaining access to that information, is silence. Now, silence is a big, scary word, and we know that, especially in our jobs, that after sometimes even short stretches of very, very deafening silence, bad things tend to happen. Almost always. Like really tragic, catastrophic things tend to happen when we can't free flow that information within our organizations. So silence ain't good. And I broadly state a lot, anytime that I get a chance, anywhere that I get a chance, that anything that creates silence in our organizations is bad for us.
Yeah.
It's bad for us as leaders. It's obviously bad for our employees, by God. Right? Probably leading into some of the second question that you were asking. But it's bad for our businesses overall. When we can't really talk about the truth, even when that truth is unsettling, even when that truth it's at the exact wrong time that I need to hear that.
Yeah.
Right? When we can't hear that, we can't innovate, we can't improve, we can't get better. We struggle. We struggle without that information. Now, with silence, though, we always have to understand that as people, silence is our neutral position. And this leads directly into this idea of psychological safety, that as people, we move towards silence because silence, at least in its immediate sense, is safe for us as individuals. If I don't open my mouth, I can't look like an idiot. If I don't tell you about that time that I almost died, you can't fire me.
Yeah.
Right? If I just shut up, I won't get judged, I won't get blamed, I won't get beat, I won't get any of that stuff. And so at least in the immediate sense, it's safe for us. Now, in the long term, right, problems fester, they get worse, right? Pain points, problems, issues, they never get better on their own usually. They tend to fester, rot, and grow, right? So that's bad, that's bad. But in the immediate sense, we're safe right now. Now, the other side of that, though, that I tie in a lot of my conversations around, again, I won't say the word psychological safety, but words. The next piece of that for me around silence is this idea that people will only tell you what you allow them to tell you. Even if you have a rule that says they got to tell you stuff, that rule means basically nothing.
Yeah.
Even if that rule says, I'll fire you if you don't tell me stuff. Because now I'm thrust into this negotiation, a negotiation between self and everybody else. And I'm going, okay, well, I know my intent. I know I wasn't trying to cause problems. I know that I was trying really hard actually to create success, but I had a bit of an event and nobody saw it.
Yeah.
But I know the history here. When people share events like this in this organization, now they're certainly not fired for reporting it. Never, 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 right? But they'll find a reason.
Yeah.
There'll be a rule. Because I know if you look hard enough at anybody's job, you're going to find that somebody made a mistake.
Something was broken.
Somebody bent a rule. Something went a little bit sideways. And so now I'm having to negotiate this choice to report or not to report. That is the question, right? To report or not to report. Do I, as our organizations will tend to frame up this way, do the right thing and report the event, even when I know after I do, it's going to be blame, shame, retrain, fired. Somewhere in that wheelhouse, right, of really painful reaction to the event. Or do I just keep it to myself? Maybe I keep it to myself, fix the problem, get the work done, and this work might have even been important. So then instead of blame, shame, retrain, I'm going to get this critical work done. You're never going to know about the event. And because I got the work done, you're going to give me praise and pizza for getting the work done. And you'll never know. You're never any wiser that things actually caught it, like literally caught on fire like an hour ago, but I put it out and you don't know. So this idea that people can only tell us what we allow them to tell us is really important, because I hear a lot of organizations say that they have something along the lines of a reporting problem. People won't tell us stuff.
Yeah.
They won't tell us stuff. They won't report events. They won't share this information with us. It's always a they thing, the mystery they, right? And usually they live closer to the work. But the funny thing is it's not a they thing, it's a we thing. If people can't tell us the truth, it's because we haven't created an environment where they can. If I'm having to choose between doing the right thing, reporting the event, and then being jobless versus it wasn't that big of a deal, and the risk of me getting fired for not reporting this event at least gives me a chance of not getting fired. I know which one I'm picking.
Oh, yeah.
I'm picking, you're never going to know about it. So when we hear things that sound like people can't tell us stuff, when we hear things that sound like we only hear about events if they're big enough for us to hear about them, we certainly don't find any opportunities where people tell us that, like, that rule doesn't work, that procedure doesn't function well, or I have to break that, or I have to bend that, or I almost died last week. We certainly don't hear any of that. It's pretty much always because we haven't created an environment where people can make that kind of noise.
Yeah.
People can't tell us that stuff because if they do, the consequences will be extreme. That should be an easy decision.
Yeah.
And it's on us as organizations to make that decision easy. Writing a rule that says you have to isn't making it easy. It's just letting me know, my God, look at what you would do to me if I don't tell you. Imagine what you do to me if I do. Like, that's even worse. You're probably going to, like, put me in one of those stockade things and throw tomatoes at me and then fire me. So I'm sticking with that one. I'm sticking with silence. So this whole idea to me, and it even gets into some of this idea around human and organizational performance, right? to me, when we talk 5 principle stuff, when we talk about leading with those, when we talk about all that stuff, to me, what we're really chipping away at is creating an environment where we get to know more, creating an environment where we can actually learn pretty deeply and then do something with that. So if you want to spend time focusing on psychological safety, that's probably a really good thing, but you got to mean it. And you got to understand that if there's a problem with the flow of information within your organization, it's rarely, hey, they just won't tell us stuff thing. It's almost always, I can't tell you stuff thing. Because if we want to get into some of what that definition is, it doesn't mean warm and fuzzy. It gets misconstrued as that sometimes. It doesn't mean like group hugs and playing bongos in the middle of the conference room, burning incense. It doesn't mean all that stuff. I mean, that's cool. That sounds like a fun place to work. What it means really is that I can extend that information. I can tell you stuff even when it's scary and inconvenient. I can stick my neck out and share that information without the fear of you lobbing off my head. I know that you are going to appreciate that I share that information, that I am not going to get just axed.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I can say, I messed up. I made a mistake. We always been that rule. And it worked well for the past 25 years, and now it didn't. Now it didn't. And I know that when I share that with you, we're not going to go down that blame, shame, retrain cycle. We're not going to go down the I'm going to preach at you thing. You're not going to put me in timeout. There's not going to be any of that stuff. But what we're going to do is we're going to do something useful with the information. Work went well for that long. Let's understand how it went well. And now let's understand how maybe it went not so well. And let's make it far easier for that work to go right. That's the other side of it, the action side of it, which I think sometimes we don't have enough conversation about. If I bring you information and I'm taking on the risk of bringing you information, and that is always a risk. Anytime I open my mouth, it's a risk. And maybe you don't panic, meltdown, freak out, throw a chair at me or anything. That's fine. But then that information just goes away and dies and things just stay the same. That's almost, not quite, almost as bad.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm still probably not going to bring you more stuff.
Yeah, they're going to internalize that as well.
Of course.
And then that's going to fester, and that's going to cause them where they're not going to feel comfortable with you as an organization.
Of course. And so, there's this thing for me, right? So one of the main, well, not main, I don't know if there's any, I don't really put any order on them. But I would say probably one of the most useful hot principles, especially early in trying to humanize your approaches to this kind of stuff, if you're trying to create that environment in particular that we're discussing, is this idea that how we respond matters.
Yeah.
And it matters a lot. And if we think about it in this frame of react versus respond, like a reaction is way different than a response. A reaction is almost always emotionally driven.
Yeah.
It's almost always meltdown, freak out, panic. It's almost always cross my arms and sigh and go, well, my God, why'd you do this? Right? It almost always sounds something like that. And especially when things go wrong, and even maybe when work's going well, but things got a little sideways, any time that somebody's reporting something to us, that's such a critical juncture in our organizations, such a critical touch point. Because what happens is, I'm testing you if I'm bringing you information.
That's right.
If I bring you and say, hey, I got a boo-boo, and then I get the chair over the head, right, and then somebody punches a hole in the drywall, right, I'm never telling you about boo-boos again.
We are done.
We're done. Never happened again. It's this, I like this idea, and I share it with leaders a lot, is that the way that I respond today determines how much I get to learn tomorrow. So when somebody brings you something like that, even if you have to take a pause and go, thank you for the information, give me 5 minutes, and you have to shut your door and cuss at God, go outside and smoke cigarettes. I know that's super unhealthy, but whatever. Whatever your coping mechanism is to calm down before you just, against somebody, do that. And then make your first words curious words, not judgmental words. Walk me through that. Help me understand how this happened. Not, why in the heck would you ever? That never works well.
Yeah.
Make sure that that interaction always goes well. It should go well. People are already hurt sometimes. On top of that, they're already terrified because they're bringing you information that they don't want to have to tell you because they know you don't want to have to hear. And then you prove them right. Prove them wrong in the best possible way. And guess what people are going to be more comfortable doing every time you do that?
Yeah, they'll open
Telling
up
you
more.
the good, the great, the bad, the ugly, the scary, the weird, and everything in between. And that's what we want, right? That's what we want.
Wow.
Yeah. So, rambly mess around psychological safety, but
No.
I think it leads maybe to some of your other comment, with the importance of this month and kind of all that stuff. I am not a mental health expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Neither am I.
But, the environments that we described so far, at least in maybe the more extreme sense, and having lived in those environments, as I know you have too, and so many other people have, like you think about those days where it's like, man, rock in a hard place. It doesn't seem to matter what I do. Like, it doesn't get any better. I got executives yelling at me from the top. I got leaders tugging on my legs. It's easy to find yourself in a position in these type of work worlds where I could easily see how you feel like you're at the end of your rope. Like you feel like you're at the end of it.
Yeah, you got injured, and now all of a sudden you're stuck with the opioid addiction.
You're stuck with an opioid addiction, yeah.
Or you've been away from home for 3 weeks and you miss your family, but no one to talk to, and all that.
3 weeks, 3 months. God knows how long it's been, right? And then you're dealing with a situation where you're going into work and you're going, this place is a circus. And the worst part is, it's not my circus, it's not my clowns. But I got to live with it. And I can't even tell people the truth. And I've got to manage information. And I dread coming here every day, but I've got to, at least for the next 6 months, until I hopefully get rolled out of here to another project that's better. Please, God, let the next one be better. Please, God. Yeah, and, you're putting your name on the layoff list, first line. Pick me, please, first. Get me out of here, right?
Yeah.
Those kind of things. It's so easy, I think, to see. As complex as that issue is, it is so much more than we could probably ever go into right now. But if work sucks, it's just going to make whatever's going on that much worse. If coming to work and you feel like you're treated like a kid, and every time you go to work, you're walking around on eggshells because, my God, if my safety glasses are like 2 millimeters too low on my nose, I'm getting fired. Like, that's a miserable situation.
Yeah.
It's a miserable situation. So if you're already dealing with stuff and you're dealing with all the other stuff that you just described, the stuff that comes with being a bit of a road dog, right? Gone for 6 months, here and there. And my God, I thought I was getting 2 weeks off, but now I got to go over here for another year before I get to go home. You're dealing with all that stuff and a work environment that's not optimized for humans at all. It seems like some of these places we build it to just be torture chambers for people. More than optimized for people.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be optimized, just make it kind of not suck. That counts for something.
Yeah.
That has to count for something there, right? You think about those jobs that you've had where you've got that tyrannical boss, you're dealing with already work that's complex and complicated. You're dealing with problems, you're dealing with the issues, and all that stuff tends to kind of marry up, and then you're going, I really don't want to go here tomorrow. But I gotta.
Yeah.